flavors, now's the time for one.
Here's Tarek's Bitter Lemon, the better bitter lemon in bottles and cans.
Tarek's Bitter Lemon has fresh lemon tang and flavour. Sharp as the frost.
So bitter lemon icy cold, or as a mixer.
Compare the prices, compare the flavour, and the bitter lemon you'll prefer is Tarek's.
Tarek's Bitter Lemon in bottles and cans from your Tarek shop, and in cans from your grocer.
Well, of course, that's the very familiar voice of Jerry G, going back through the years to the Tarek Show. And Simon, I think it's very appropriate that tonight we phone Ron Blaskett, who on Friday becomes 90 years young. Good evening to you, Ron.
Hello, Phil and Simon, and that was Paddy Newton, wasn't it?
No, we had vision here, and I'd love to tell you who it was, but no, it was not Patty, sadly. And if you were here, you would identify her.
She was another blonde, and quite gorgeous, just like Patty, but no. She had a bit of a rounder face, would you say, Phil?
Oh, I know the girl, yes. She was a ballet girl, I think, who injured her foot or something, and came into the Tarek Show when Uncle Norman was there.
I think you're quite right there.
Gail, someone or other.
Gail Lesnar, perhaps?
No.
A very pretty girl.
Yeah.
Now, but of course, let's turn the spotlight on you, because you've been entertaining since, well, I suppose during the war years originally.
Oh, well, before that.
Before that?
Yes, I'd been winning all sorts of competitions prior to the war, and I was lucky enough to, after initial training, to get into the One Ost Entertainment Unit, which was under the command of Colonel Jim Davidson, and we had people like Peter Finch, Horry Dargy, and lots of people that you know who were in One Ost Entertainment Unit. We were using the Pagewood Film Studios in Sydney. We got split into units and sent out from there. I kept Smokey Dawson with me, and we finished the war in Balikpapan, Borneo.
Yeah, now Jim Davidson, that was a well-known band leader, wasn't it?
ABC band leader, and it's not generally known that for quite a time Bob Dyer was his vocalist.
Is that true? The last of the Tennessee Hillbillies. And I think you and Happy Hammond met up about this time, didn't you?
During the war, yes.
Yes.
He was in a different concert party to me, but when we were up on the tablelands with the people who came back from the Middle East entertaining, we went and saw his show. At that time I was with Max Reddy and most of the ABC dance band in our show, and we went and saw Happy Hammond's show.
Mr. Blaskett, I'd love to go back even further. Given that you would have been growing up in the 20s and into the 30s, what was life like back then? You've seen so much that has changed. What's your earliest memory as a young boy?
The earliest memory has been taken by my father, who was the leader of the Boy Scout movement in Australia, with Brunswick being the #1 troop. We were sent to Western Australia, and he took me along to a boys' home, and I saw a tall gentleman in a frock coat working with what I found out later was a ventriloquist doll. As it went into the case, you could hear it talking, saying, "Let me out, let me out." And I was absolutely intrigued, but at 7, during the Depression, there was no way you could do anything about it. But at 13, back in Melbourne, I was able to go to the library and get a book and read all about it.
Isn't that amazing? And that shaped your life, that one moment in time.
It shaped my life. That man is Professor Turner, his name was, and the doll that I saw was given to me when I became production manager in Perth, and that doll is now in the Performing Arts Museum that set me on this course.
How fabulous.
How good is that? Now, the first band that I was familiar with was Kevin O'Gorman of 3KZ and his doll Archie.
Strangely enough, that after the war, he was working with another gentleman there, it might have been Eddie Barmer, but he called his doll Arlie Slats because he was doing ads for aluminium slats, the big new thing in Venetians.
Yes.
And so Archie became Arlie Slats. But Kevin was a very good ventriloquist and appeared at the Palais at St Kilda.
You'll be sorry to know that Chris Kirby doesn't enjoy the best of health these days.
So I've heard. I just heard that the other day. He was doing a one-man show in London that I have the program of, and apparently it was extremely good, but I did hear that he's not that well.
There was a report, I think, in a current affair or Today Tonight about his ill health. And, of course, we lost Dennis Spicer some years ago, didn't we?
Oh, many years ago when I was still at 9. I was at 9 for 10 years, of course, right from the test transmissions through. And by golly, it was a wonderful place to work, Philip, wasn't it? And with Simon's uncle, Jeff Cork,
yes,
of happy memory.
Who you named Corky King of the Kids.
That's right. I was at the Danish Club one Sunday night having dinner with Merle and Bernard the Magician, Alf Gertler, and it suddenly came to me that he needed an image of some kind as he was coming into the show. Graham Kennedy had finished with him by that stage, and it came to me, Corky King of the Kids, and I thought about it and wrote about it, and that's how it came to pass. And ratings-wise, Jeff Cork was the most successful of the combos that we had. I'm rather nonplussed when, in question time at the various shows that I do, people often state that the first one was Gingell, but he was Sydney, of course, and we had no way of seeing that except on newsreels and in the press. But the first face on Victorian television was definitely your uncle Jeff Cork.
Yes, yes.
And that would have been from Mount Dandenong transmitter, I imagine.
It was. And strangely enough, Phil, I've never been up there since. I have been to the Cuckoo on the way up, but I've never been up the top.
Oh, it's about time you went back, Ron.
Yeah.
How do you plan to celebrate your birthday with your family?
All the family, including Merle, who's had a bad fall visiting our great-granddaughter last week.
She's got a black eye at the moment.
Yeah, she has. Not too good. We've got some tape on it.
Yeah.
There'll be 16 of the family, including my 2 beloved sons and 3 granddaughters and 1 great-granddaughter. We're going to the Crystal Dragon in Templestowe, and we're looking forward to a lovely banquet.
Mr. Blaskett, I have a question.
Oh, don't call me Mister. For heaven's sake, Ron. I only get called Mister by somebody who doesn't like me.
Yeah, and why doesn't he call me Mr. Brady, for goodness sake?
It's an issue of respect.
Well, it's better than hey you, isn't it?
Okay, well, Ron, I have a question to ask, but I have to preface it with a story to put it in context. John Burns from our breakfast program here met up with a lady who was performing in a group, and she, in chatting with him, said, "Oh, I recognise your voice from the radio. You're on 3AW, aren't you?" And John sort of proudly puffed out his chest and said, "Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I am." And she said to him, "Which one are you, Bruce or Phil?" And the question I want to ask is, how many times in your long career have people come up to you and asked if you were Edgar Bergen?
Not a lot. No, I haven't been mistaken for Edgar Bergen.
Well, he wasn't so well known here, was he?
Not so well, only through films, of course.
Yeah.
But he was very big in America. But he did come out here, and I was lucky enough to be sent by 9 to meet him in Sydney and do press for Listener In with him. I thought of the girl's name doing that ad. It was Gail Dixon.
Oh, that's the girl. She's a very pretty girl, wasn't she?
Yes.
Now, I must tell you, over the years, Bruce and I get phone calls about 2 topics which predominate Nightline. The 2 questions are, whatever happened to Deadly Ernest? And the other question is always, tell us about the little man who taps on the window.
Well, Deadly Ernest I can't help you with. He was the guy who did the late night movie.
Oh, no, I know the answer. That was Ralph Baker. I'm not quizzing you about that, but I'm just saying the 2 things that are talked about most are Deadly Ernest and about the little man tapping on the window. Now, this is close to your heart.
It certainly is, because every Friday night, I'm in Melbourne tonight, I would do the ads for LP Alexander, where the little man used to tap on the window, so much so that they had to put a little piece of glass glued on the window so that the tapping wouldn't eventually make its way right through the window. And that little man tapping on the window was discovered on a rubbish bin in Sydney, restored, and it was in the Block Arcade for many years at a chocolate shop there.
Well, I think it's back at Haig's Chocolates now, where it started.
I don't know the name of the chocolate shop, but I was in there.
I believe that's where it is these days.
Oh, right.
Yes, that's where it's
ended. To get into the city now, Phil. Queues about as far as I go, because with the parking. I don't walk that well, but well enough to do my shows with the help of my dear son Ronald.
That little man who taps on the window, Ken, has a friend who works at Haig's Chocolates, and it's her job to look after him. Isn't that right, Ken?
That's spot on, and good evening to you, Mr. Blaskett.
Oh, hi there, Ken. Again, this Mr. bit is quite unfamiliar to me.
Oh, no, you're a showbiz legend.
It's different. I was doing it out of respect, but Ken doesn't like you. But anyway.
But no, seriously, my friend Sandra is one of the managers at Haig's Chocolates in the Block Arcade.
Right.
And it is her job to look after that little man that taps on the window, because he is back at Haig's Chocolates now. But the procedure apparently is unbelievable. It's white gloves. He's in a velvet-lined box. So he is very much valued, the little man that taps on the window.
So the wheel has turned full circle, 6 degrees of separation. Now it's Philip again, Mr. Blaskett. and I want to ask you, how's your health these days?
Pretty good. I'm looked after pretty well. The heart man at the Epworth keeps an elaborate thing going in my chest called a pacemaker, and my urology is looked after very well at a hospital out here opposite the Austin called Warringal, and it's good.
And by the way, what was the name of your very first doll? Because I think Jerry G was to coincide with GTV, wasn't it?
That's exactly right, Phil. He was only flown out 4 days before the opening night. The first doll was bought by my grandma, and it was Willie Ross, named after a J. Howlett Ross, who taught elocution and was well known on the ABC for talks in those days in radio.
Right.
Of course, radio was the big thing in the days before television, and in my early career, to get on radio was the thing, and I was lucky enough to get a gig, as they call it, every Friday night on Victory Varieties with Norman Banks.
And how's Adolphus Quirk these days?
Adolphus Quirk, our beloved Adolphus. Well, my son Peter wanted to get his own figures, and he has very good American figures. They're called Selberg dolls, carved by a Californian bloke who's world famous for his work. And Peter has those, and he prefers to call it Jerry G the Second, and he has a goofy type doll, but he didn't want it to be Adolphus Twerk.
And favourite times of mine in the 1950s, the Tarot Show and the Happy Show, were the interchanges between Jerry G and Professor Ratbaggy. At one time, Ernie Carroll, but prior to that, Denzel Housen, of course.
The beloved Denzel Housen. One of the happiest times of my life and Merle's life was going to Perth, and Denzel was the program manager. I had the responsibility to everything live on the station, including news.
Yes.
And it was a very happy 4 years. And then my parents were getting aged, and the call of home was there. Ronald was in advertising, a creative director, working with Philip Adams at that time. And so the call of coming home was strong, and after 4 years, I came home.
And I don't want to end this conversation with you tonight without mentioning a beloved friend of both of ours who's had such an influence on Australian talent over the years, Margot Sheridan, the pianist.
I'm glad you thought about her, because I was thinking about Margot this afternoon. What a wonderful person. She put in the extra hours in getting people ready for new faces and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I was very saddened that they didn't give her a little boardroom function for all that work. Even a cup of tea would have been nice.
And of course you've been at 3KZ for years and years and years prior to that.
That's where I first met her, in Victory Varieties with Norman Banks.
I can't tell you what a thrill it is to talk to you just a couple of days before the big milestone birthday, Ron.
You know, at 90, Phil, I used to say I'd never keep going until I looked ridiculous. But having done one show and finding tremendous acceptance, over 10 years I've been able to hone that, audio, visuals and performing, 10 minutes with ventriloquism, that as the need is there, I haven't liked to give it up, and thank goodness they tell me I don't look ridiculous.
Well, even better news for you is she's not in showbiz. You're turning 90. I have an aunt who'll be 108 in a couple of months.
Well, I'm going to live till that or die in the attempt.
Phil's not trying to set you up on a date, I think.
No, you're happily married to Mel.
My date's right sitting next to me.
Just as well.
Black eye and all.
Yeah.
Ron, thanks for your company over the years for all the entertainment you've given us over a lifetime, but more important to me, your valued friendship.
Yes, indeed, Phil, and I look forward to seeing you in person before very long.
As we say goodnight to you and salute you on your 90th birthday.
Thank you, and good night to Simon, and happy memories. I have often spoken to Simon on radio, but I would like to meet him in person one day.
Well,
that'd be
indeed you
lovely.
will. And speaking of memories, let's say goodnight to you as we go back to the 1950s at GTV Channel 9.
All right then, Jerry. All right, let's get somebody out of the audience. One of the boys or girls, any boy or girl will do. A boy or girl. Oh, here's a little girl now. Sit down there. Have a terrace.
Oh, thank you.
What's your name?
Elaine.
Huh, not bad, eh? Ain't on, yes. Looks a little like the girl next door. Now, tell me, dear, have you ever seen me moving my lips?
Of course she does, of course she does.
She does what?
Move her lips.
Oh, you're hopeless.
Yeah.
You're hopeless, Professor Ratbaggy.
Oh, no, they haven't seen her.
I'd say he is a perfect idiot.
No, nobody's perfect.
No, but look, Professor, don't let it worry you. It'll come out all right.
You mean I'll have a happy ending?
Of course, that's if you're looking on the bright side.
On the which side?
On the bright side, that's what I always do.
Is it?
That's why they call me Happy, because today I feel so happy. Today I feel so happy, so happy, so happy. I don't know why I'm happy, I only know I am. I have no path to step on, the whys and the wherefores. When I stroll out or step out, I gamble like a man. Oh, I'm walking on air, never a care. Something is making me sing. Oh, tra-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la, like a little bird in scream. Oh, today I feel so happy, so happy, so happy. I don't know why I'm happy, I only know I am.